What if high blood pressure is not just a medical number, but a quiet conversation your body has been trying to start with you for years? Every heartbeat pushes blood through miles of vessels, and when those vessels grow tense, inflamed, or overloaded with sodium, the pressure rises. Not suddenly. Gradually. Patiently. And what we eat becomes one of the strongest voices in that conversation. In high blood pressure, food can either tighten the system or gently release it. The goal is not extreme restriction, but daily biological support. When blood pressure is high, the body needs minerals that relax blood vessels, antioxidants that protect artery walls, and water that allows blood to flow without resistance. This is where fruits become powerful allies, not because they are sweet, but because they communicate directly with the kidneys, the arteries, and the nervous system. Let's begin with what we should eat. Potassium-rich fruits help the body flush out excess sodium, easing pressure from within. Bananas, oranges, kiwis, and apricots work quietly through the kidneys, helping restore balance between sodium and potassium, a balance that modern diets often destroy. 1 medium fruit per serving is enough. 1 banana, 1 orange, or 2 kiwis at a time. More is not better. Consistency is. Berries like blueberries, strawberries, and raspberries support the inner lining of blood vessels. They help arteries respond smoothly to each heartbeat instead of staying stiff. A small bowl, about half a cup, once a day is ideal. Fresh or frozen, without added sugar, they train your blood vessels to become flexible again. Apples and pears feed the gut with soluble fiber, which indirectly lowers blood pressure by reducing inflammation and improving cholesterol balance. 1 medium apple or pear per day is sufficient. Eat them whole, not juiced, because fiber is part of their medicine. Pomegranates and grapes improve circulation and reduce oxidative stress inside arteries. A small bowl of grapes or half a cup of pomegranate seeds is enough. These fruits work best when eaten slowly, not blended, allowing the body to absorb their protective compounds steadily. Water-rich fruits like watermelon help hydrate the blood and support nitric oxide production, which relaxes blood vessels. 1 to 2 cups of watermelon, a few times a week, is enough to feel the benefit without excess sugar. Now let's talk about what to avoid, because high blood pressure worsens when food constantly signals the body to hold tension. Avoid salty and processed foods that overload the bloodstream with sodium. Packaged snacks, instant noodles, processed meats, pickles, sauces, and fast foods silently push blood pressure higher, even when you don't feel it. Limit sugary fruits taken in excess. Fruit juice, dried fruits, and large fruit smoothies can spike blood sugar and indirectly raise blood pressure through insulin stress. Whole fruits are protective. Juices are not. Avoid excess caffeine and sugary drinks. They stimulate the nervous system and cause blood vessels to constrict temporarily, which becomes harmful when repeated daily. Reduce refined carbohydrates like white bread, pastries, and sweets. These foods promote inflammation and fluid retention, increasing pressure inside blood vessels. Now, how much fruit is healthy in high blood pressure? 2 to 3 servings of whole fruit per day is ideal. Spread them across the day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 in the evening if needed. Pair fruit with nuts, seeds, or yogurt to slow absorption and improve mineral balance. High blood pressure does not improve through fear or force. It improves through daily signals of safety sent to the body. When you eat calmly, choose foods that relax rather than stimulate, and nourish instead of overload, blood pressure begins to respond. Food is not just fuel. It is information. And every bite tells your blood vessels whether to tighten or to let go. High blood pressure rarely begins as a sudden malfunction. It emerges slowly, shaped by years of excess sodium, chronic stress, inadequate mineral intake, and subtle dehydration that the body adapts to until elevated pressure becomes the new normal. At the center of this process is potassium, a mineral that quietly governs how the kidneys handle sodium and how blood vessels respond to tension. When potassium intake is low, the body holds onto sodium, increasing fluid volume in the bloodstream and raising pressure against artery walls. Fruits rich in potassium enter this system not as medication, but as gentle regulators, restoring a balance the body has been trying to maintain all along. Bananas, oranges, kiwis, and apricots deliver potassium in a biologically friendly form, accompanied by fiber, water, and natural sugars that slow absorption and prevent sudden metabolic stress. Once potassium levels improve, the kidneys receive a clear signal to release excess sodium through urine. This reduces fluid overload in the blood, easing the force required to circulate it. Blood pressure responds gradually, often without noticeable sensations, because the change occurs at the level of daily physiology rather than emergency correction. Potassium also affects the smooth muscle cells that line blood vessels. These muscles contract and relax in response to electrical signals, and potassium plays a key role in maintaining that electrical stability. Adequate potassium intake reduces abnormal constriction, allowing vessels to remain slightly more relaxed at rest. This relaxation is not weakness, it is efficiency. The heart does not need to work harder when vessels cooperate with each pulse, and pressure decreases as resistance falls. Modern diets often disrupt this balance by combining high sodium with low potassium, a pattern common in processed and packaged foods. Even individuals who avoid adding salt may unknowingly consume large amounts through sauces, breads, and preserved foods, while missing the potassium that naturally counteracts sodium's effects. Fruits correct this imbalance without requiring drastic dietary changes, making them a sustainable intervention rather than a temporary fix. There is also a hormonal dimension to potassium's influence on blood pressure. Low potassium levels stimulate the release of hormones that promote sodium retention and vessel constriction. When potassium intake improves, these hormonal signals soften, allowing the body to shift out of a state of constant conservation and tension. Blood pressure lowers not because the body is forced to change, but because it no longer feels the need to defend itself against perceived scarcity. Consuming potassium-rich fruits in appropriate portions is essential. 1 medium banana, 1 orange, or 2 kiwis at a time provides sufficient potassium to support daily needs without overwhelming blood sugar regulation. Consistency matters more than quantity, as the body responds best to regular mineral availability. Over time, this steady intake teaches the cardiovascular system to function with less strain, less fluid overload, and less resistance, allowing blood pressure to move toward balance through cooperation rather than control. Berries enter the story of blood pressure through the health of the vessel lining itself, the endothelium, a thin and sensitive layer of cells that decides whether arteries relax or remain tense. When this lining is damaged by oxidative stress, inflammation, or poor metabolic health, blood vessels lose their ability to respond smoothly to changes in blood flow. Pressure rises not because the heart suddenly works harder, but because the vessels stop listening. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and similar berries carry a dense concentration of polyphenols and flavonoids that restore this communication at a cellular level. These compounds improve the availability of nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for signaling blood vessels to dilate when needed. Instead of forcing vessels open, berries enhance the body's own signaling pathways, allowing arteries to expand and contract in rhythm with each heartbeat. This responsiveness reduces the constant baseline tension that characterizes high blood pressure. Over time, vessels regain elasticity, not through mechanical stretching, but through biochemical support that repairs function rather than masking dysfunction. Oxidative stress plays a central role in vascular stiffness. Free radicals damage the endothelial cells, reducing their ability to regulate tone and increasing inflammation within artery walls. The antioxidants in berries neutralize these free radicals, lowering oxidative damage and giving the endothelium space to recover. This process is gradual and cumulative, which is why regular consumption matters more than occasional large servings. Half a cup of berries daily delivers a steady supply of protective compounds without adding excessive sugar load. Berries also influence blood pressure indirectly through insulin sensitivity. When blood sugar control improves, insulin levels stabilize, reducing one of the hormonal drivers of vascular constriction. High insulin promotes sodium retention and stimulates the nervous system, both of which elevate blood pressure. The fiber and polyphenols in berries slow glucose absorption, preventing sharp spikes and helping maintain a calmer metabolic environment. This metabolic stability translates into more relaxed blood vessels over time. There is also a subtle interaction between berries and the gut microbiome. The polyphenols they contain are transformed by gut bacteria into bioactive compounds that circulate through the bloodstream and influence vascular function. This means the benefits of berries extend beyond digestion, shaping systemic inflammation and endothelial health from the inside out. A healthier microbiome produces fewer inflammatory signals, reducing the chronic low-grade inflammation that contributes to vascular stiffness. What makes berries particularly powerful is their efficiency. Small portions deliver meaningful physiological effects without requiring dietary extremes. Fresh or frozen berries offer similar benefits, provided they are free from added sugars. Consumed regularly, they train the cardiovascular system to respond rather than resist, restoring a sense of adaptability within blood vessels that have grown rigid under years of metabolic and oxidative stress. Blood pressure improves not through forceful lowering, but through renewed sensitivity, flexibility, and communication within the vascular system. Pomegranates and grapes offer a profound influence on blood pressure by addressing one of the silent but relentless forces behind vascular tension, oxidative stress. Within every artery, free radicals form naturally through metabolism, environmental exposure, and inflammation. When these reactive molecules accumulate faster than the body can neutralize them, they damage the delicate endothelial lining of blood vessels, impair nitric oxide signaling, and promote stiffness. Pomegranates and grapes contain concentrated antioxidants, polyphenols, flavonoids, and tannins that intercept these radicals, preventing them from interfering with the mechanisms that allow vessels to relax and contract with each heartbeat. This protective effect is particularly important because blood pressure is not merely a function of the heart strength, but of the resistance it encounters. Even a heart in perfect condition will face higher pressure when the pathways it pumps through become narrow or inflexible. By reducing oxidative stress, pomegranates and grapes help preserve the elasticity of arteries, allowing them to expand naturally when blood flows through them. Nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for signaling relaxation, survives longer in this environment, and vessels respond appropriately rather than remaining chronically constricted. The effect is gradual, cumulative, and deeply restorative. These fruits also influence inflammation, a hidden factor in hypertension. Oxidative stress and inflammation are closely linked, forming a feedback loop that gradually stiffens arterial walls. Compounds in pomegranates and grapes reduce pro-inflammatory signaling within endothelial cells, calming the system and creating an environment where blood vessels can function optimally. This is not a quick fix or a temporary dilation, but a long-term adaptation that gradually lowers baseline vascular tension. Circulation benefits further from these fruits because antioxidants improve platelet function and reduce the tendency for blood to form clumps. When circulation flows smoothly, the heart does not need to generate excessive pressure to maintain adequate perfusion. This subtle improvement in blood rheology complements the chemical support provided to the endothelium, creating a holistic effect where the entire vascular system operates with less strain. Blood pressure is lowered not by pushing the heart to work less, but by making the pathways through which it pumps more cooperative. Portion and frequency play a critical role in maximizing these effects. Half a cup of pomegranate seeds or a small bowl of grapes daily provides sufficient bioactive compounds to support endothelial function without introducing excessive sugar. These fruits are most effective when consumed whole, allowing the body to absorb their compounds gradually and steadily. Over time, the consistent intake of pomegranates and grapes reinforces the body's natural ability to regulate vessel tone and blood flow. There is also a psychological dimension to consider. The vibrant colors and natural sweetness of these fruits often encourage mindful eating, creating a slower, more deliberate pace of consumption. This mindful approach can indirectly support blood pressure by reducing stress-related surges in vascular tone. When combined with the chemical and biological effects of their antioxidants, pomegranates and grapes act as gentle, consistent allies in maintaining arterial health, restoring flexibility and circulation through processes that honor the body's natural rhythms rather than overriding them. Apples and pears play a unique and often underestimated role in supporting healthy blood pressure, not through dramatic chemical effects, but through the slow and steady influence of soluble fiber on the body's internal systems. When consumed regularly, these fruits feed the gut microbiome, the diverse ecosystem of bacteria that resides in the intestines and communicates constantly with other organs, including the cardiovascular system. Soluble fiber from apples and pears is fermented by gut bacteria into short-chain fatty acids, compounds that influence inflammation, regulate hormone production, and modulate vascular tone. This connection between gut health and blood pressure demonstrates that circulation is not only about the heart and arteries but about the entire physiological network that supports them. Beyond the microbiome, soluble fiber also helps regulate cholesterol levels. By binding to cholesterol in the digestive tract, fiber reduces its absorption into the bloodstream, indirectly lowering the risk of plaque formation within arteries. When arterial walls remain clear and flexible, blood moves through them with less resistance, and the heart does not need to pump as forcefully to maintain circulation. This effect is gradual and cumulative, requiring consistent intake over days and weeks, but it addresses one of the underlying contributors to chronic hypertension rather than masking symptoms with short-term interventions. Fiber-rich fruits like apples and pears also slow the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream, reducing insulin spikes that can trigger sodium retention and vascular constriction. High insulin levels often accompany elevated blood pressure because insulin signals the kidneys to hold onto sodium and prompts the nervous system to increase vascular tone. By moderating these fluctuations, apples and pears provide a subtle but meaningful influence on the body's regulatory mechanisms, allowing blood vessels to relax more effectively and maintain steady pressure. The act of eating these fruits whole is as important as the nutrients they contain. Chewing slowly, savoring the texture, and allowing the fiber to reach the digestive system gradually supports better glucose control and more consistent mineral absorption. One medium apple or pear per day is sufficient to feed the microbiome, provide potassium, and deliver the soluble fiber necessary to influence inflammation and vascular function. The effect is steady and ongoing, requiring regularity rather than occasional indulgence, but it builds a foundation for long-term cardiovascular health. There is also an indirect effect through systemic inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation stiffens arteries and disrupts endothelial function, increasing vascular resistance. Compounds in apples and pears, including polyphenols like quercetin and catechins, work alongside fiber to reduce inflammatory signals, allowing arteries to remain flexible. This influence extends beyond the gut, affecting the smooth muscle lining the vessels, supporting nitric oxide signaling, and helping the cardiovascular system respond appropriately to each heartbeat. In this way, apples and pears exemplify how simple, natural foods can create layered effects throughout the body. They nourish the gut, moderate glucose and insulin response, reduce inflammation, support cholesterol metabolism, and ultimately influence the tone and responsiveness of blood vessels. By incorporating these fruits consistently into the diet, the body receives steady support, gradually learning to maintain lower blood pressure through internal balance rather than external intervention, allowing the cardiovascular system to function with less strain, more flexibility, and a restored sense of rhythm. Water-rich fruits like watermelon enter the body not as a treatment, but as a quiet correction to a problem that often begins with dehydration, thickened blood, and narrowed vessels. When the body lacks adequate fluid, the blood becomes more concentrated, forcing the heart to push harder with every beat. This extra effort slowly raises pressure within the arteries, not because the heart is failing, but because the environment it is working in has become resistant. Watermelon offers hydration in a form the body accepts easily, delivering water along with natural electrolytes that help cells absorb and retain that fluid where it is needed most. Beyond hydration, watermelon contains citrulline, an amino acid that the body converts into arginine, and then into nitric oxide, a molecule that acts as a natural signal for blood vessels to relax. Nitric oxide does not overpower the system. It communicates with the smooth muscle lining the arteries, allowing them to widen just enough to reduce resistance without compromising circulation. This subtle expansion lowers pressure gently, respecting the body's internal balance rather than forcing a sudden change that can feel stressful to the cardiovascular system. Hydration also affects blood viscosity, the thickness of blood as it moves through vessels. When blood flows more freely, the heart does not need to generate excessive force to maintain circulation. Water-rich fruits support this process gradually, reducing strain over time rather than delivering a short-lived effect. This is especially important for people with high blood pressure, where long-term consistency matters more than rapid results. The body learns from repetition, responding best to signals that arrive daily and calmly. Watermelon's natural sweetness often causes concern, but when eaten in appropriate portions, its glycemic load remains moderate due to its high water content. This means blood sugar rises gently, avoiding the insulin spikes that can contribute to vascular tension. In this way, watermelon supports blood pressure without creating metabolic stress, making it especially valuable when consumed as part of a balanced meal rather than alone or in large quantities. There is also a nervous system component to hydration and vascular health. Mild dehydration activates stress hormones that constrict blood vessels and increase heart rate. By maintaining adequate fluid intake through water-rich fruits, the body receives a signal of safety, reducing the background activation of these stress responses. Blood pressure improves not only through physical changes in the vessels, but through a calmer internal state that allows the cardiovascular system to operate without constant alarm. In this sense, watermelon and similar fruits do more than deliver nutrients. They restore a relationship between circulation and ease, reminding the body that flow does not require force. When hydration, nitric oxide signaling, and metabolic balance align, blood pressure begins to settle naturally, not as a dramatic drop, but as a steady return toward equilibrium. If you found this guide helpful and want to take control of your blood pressure naturally, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more health tips. Give this video a like if you learned something new, and don't forget to share it with your family and friends so they can benefit too. Together, we can build healthier habits, one meal and one choice at a time.